So welcome to the N-API team meeting for February 24th, 2020. We have a fewer people because we had to move due to the conflict with the security working group meeting earlier today. But we'll do a quick loop through the agenda. So let me get that up and then I can share it. Before I'm doing that, anybody have any announcements they'd like to share?
I don't have anything.
Okay. So share screen, here we go. Share. Okay, the first one is, do we need some additional async worker variants? If I remember correctly, that one actually needed a PR review. Let me just open that up. Oh, and I pulled it out of there. There we go. So let's pull it back into the share. So I guess, Gabriel, you have given a few comments.
Yep.
And I'll try and take a look at that today myself too. That's 585. And then I think we may be able to close that one out. SQLite port.
Yeah, so this week I was focusing on the Windows version where I was actually able to reproduce the issue on my development system. And so then as I was working on it, it's just so weird. It's just so weird. Eventually, it was like as I was putting in my code to understand what was going on, it started working. And
of course.
And when I removed all my changes, it's now working on the development system. So
okay.
But it's failing in. If I run say appver multiple times, it's failing on different builds in different ways. So
okay.
it's non-deterministic. So this week, what I'd like to do is return back to the Mac and the Linux versions and see what progress I can make there. But I'm pretty sure, Michael, next week that we're going to want to schedule some time to look at this.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, and then really we're to the ones where we take a look at the issues that are open. So I don't know if either of you have any in Node add-on API or ABI stable node that we need to look at. Any that come to mind, or?
I don't have any, Michael.
Gabriel, do you have any?
We had, I remember filing a bunch of issues last couple of weeks, but I haven't had a chance to look at them after.
Okay, I know there were some while I was away around the threadsafe function that there'd been some discussion of sort of coming up with a V2 without breaking people who are using V1. Don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're at that point where we might want to just revamp the whole thing.
Okay, I'm just looking. So I don't see anything else that really stands out as things we need to talk about this week. If not, then maybe we can just call it and we'll get together next week.
Michael, I'd like to talk about moving the tutorials into the foundation.
Okay, sure.
And I just want to make sure we talk about it this week, and just and then, if we don't make a decision this week, we can talk about it next week. So it's the very bottom one on this list.
This one, okay, sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So the first step is to get the existing examples onto the Foundation's example site, and I'm working on that. I've got a PR in I'm working on a PR so we can get those moved in. But then the next step is to decide how we're going to publish the text. And
Right.
I feel I need some direction there from the team. What basic, how we, what alternatives are within the realm of possibilities? Because if we decide on a way to publish it, then what I'd like to do is try them out and see,
Right.
but I'm not clear what parameters that we're working in.
Okay.
Just sorry to interrupt. Can you please promote Kevin? He's
Oh.
joined and he's actually visible in the list of attendees now.
Yep. Okay. Let me participants. There we go. Hopefully he'll show up. There we go. Okay. Welcome, Kevin.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Okay, so we were looking. This is the
These are
table of examples. Okay.
Which I'm working on getting moved into the examples repo.
Okay. Right. So I'm just typing here. Org, right? I think that's one that's already been mentioned. Let me just.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if these are all viable, but we can just throw in whatever ones people have.
Yep, exactly, Michael.
Node. N-API repo.
We could put them on the examples repo.
Examples repo. Any other thoughts, or where else could they go?
Yeah, I think it makes sense to publish them on GitHub in one way or another.
Okay. You mean, so that's versus the Node.js.org?
That's what I had been kind of thinking, but I imagine Node.js.org could be an optional. So
we have docs. Is there other places? There's got to be other.
Is it under guides on the left?
Guides. Okay, this is guides, which was the.
Yeah.
So like, although you kind of need a whole section, right?
Yeah, I don't think this warrants to be at this level, because what we're doing is pretty niche. So I don't think it warrants to be at this place. That's my opinion.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd say no from that perspective, but I mean, in terms of the workshops, is it something you want to get clone? Like, I forget the flow as people go through the workshop itself.
Oh, generally the way the workshops, the tutorials are structured is it's a lot of narrative with example code. And
right, okay.
So it doesn't really tell them to clone the examples. The nice thing about Hexo is I can point it to the code, and when the static pages are built, it brings in the current code into the static pages. So so we have a great deal of confidence that the code on the example pages will actually work.
Right.
And then on many of them, we point the reader to the repo, like, here's the repo if you want to just play around with it. So the other advantage of getting all of the examples into the repo is we could run nightly CI on them, and we'd have a great deal of confidence that the code examples actually do continue to work.
Right, okay.
So I'm trying to get a whole unified thing here with the text narrative, the examples, and then nightly tests.
Right. Well, certainly the getting them into the example, like the code in the examples and the nightly test is definitely good.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess we would have the freedom to do what we want on the examples repo. Like
Yes.
if we wanted to
Yeah.
go off and do our own publishing sort of thing.
And it kind of fits. I mean, I guess the publishing, does that require things to be installed in Node CI jobs, or is it external? How would that flow
See,
kind of work?
up to this point, I've just been doing it manually. So
Okay.
with Hexo, I've been generating the static web pages and then uploading them.
Okay.
But I imagine with GitHub pages on the examples repo, we could automate all of that.
Okay. Any thoughts, people's thoughts in terms of which one of these would be best?
I just have a general question then. How much flexibility would we have with changes that we would need to, like if we want to make changes? How much flexibility would we have if it were on the main Node.js.org page? That's sort of my main question, because when they're hosted on GitHub, I feel it's easy to change there,
Right,
because
right.
make a
Yeah.
PR and then boom, if it's approved, it's changed. I don't really know the whole.
Yeah.
It is a PR, like there's a Node.js.org repo, and it's basically a PR into that.
Yeah. And it gets a lot of scrutiny, which is
yeah,
good.
it gets a fair amount of eyes. It also gets like there is a process, I think, that converts the markdown to HTML.
Mm.
So I don't know if that would complicate things in terms of the, what's displayed and how the workshops flow.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. Maybe we can just like prioritize this list, and then depending on how much visibility it gets, then go higher on the Node.js.org. I feel like I think since we have so much flexibility on what we have on, the GitHub repos, if we polish that off, then maybe depending on how much visibility that gets. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there's kind of a natural fit with the Node add-on examples in the first place.
Yeah, it would be, yeah, because you'd have the tutorials and the text narrative in the same location where the code is. So if
right,
people
and it's
yeah,
kind of like a learning resource for add-ons already.
Right.
And so having some workshops that you can then work through there, actually makes a fair amount of sense to me.
Yeah.
It would only be like if we want to, if we said, hey, let's try and make it more visible on the website or whatever, or there's some other reason, like you said, we might get more people reviewing, helping with the wording. If we wanted that, the Node.js one might make sense. But to me, it also would make sense if there was like a workshop subdirectory in here. And then, because you've come here, it's like, okay, I want to find how to do certain things. Oh, and if I want to actually, as opposed to just looking at the example, I can go through a workshop.
Yes. Yeah.
That's actually, kind of nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yep, agreed.
Okay, so it sounds like we're saying, based on the discussion, we think the best fit is the Node add-on on examples repo, right?
Yeah. Okay, good.
Maybe with like a new subsection called workshops.
Yeah, I think a workshops, like a separate directory that said workshops, would definitely be I can capture that too. Is a new subdirectory. directory called, you think workshops is the right one?
Yeah. They're in. I've always thought of them more as tutorials that were
Okay.
used in workshops.
Either way, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Like I said, the workshops are the workshops are the things we hold. The tutorials are the content that we
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
produce.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Then have a directory for each workshop,
Or
as a file for each workshop.
In the current one, there are sections like getting started, and then there's a section on building, and then a section on advanced topics. So the directory structure might be, but then each individual tutorial is one page.
Okay.
But they're kind of grouped into like pages.
So if each tutorial is one page, then it makes sense that each tutorial would be its own directory, and then the readme.md would automatically be displayed when you click on that directory.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Right. So if you
Okay.
make the tutorial text itself the readme.md, then that will be shown automatically, and there won't be that. I don't believe there will be so many files in that directory that it would be swept under all those files, and so people will be like, okay, well, this is just a bunch of files.
Yeah.
Right.
You could make the rest of the files in the directory be like the package JSON and the rest of the code, so that maybe they could just npm install and then have the artifacts for the tutorial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Uh-huh.
Because I think like a lot of the examples, I think at least the first hello world is kind of like that, where it goes through the code and then you can actually just npm install and you have everything.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it would be something similar to that for the tutorials. And then if we can make sure that the code matches with the tutorial.
Yeah.
But I guess it would be sort of replicating, like the code would be embedded inside of the README MD, but then also as the JS files, but throwing ideas out.
Actually, if the code were exclusively within the README MD, we might write a script that sort of strips it out and tests it. Though I'm not sure if we want the whole code to be in the README MD.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yes, exactly. Yeah. But going the opposite way I think would be easier, where the tutorial page pulls out the snippets of code that it wants included.
Yeah. So okay. So is that where this hexo stuff comes in?
Yeah,
where you just pointed to like a JS file residing at some absolute URL, and it will reflect that inside the page.
Yeah, the hexo files are essentially markdown, but then there are special comments that where you can specify, okay, I want you to pull in code from this location.
Okay.
And
then
then
you can like specify like line ranges and that kind of thing.
I believe that's true. So far, I've only done the entire file, but I believe you can do line ranges.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. This is good. Okay. This is good.
Okay, so we've said it's going to be a new subdirectory called tutorials, which then have a directory for each tutorial.
Yeah. Okay. And then
you can always adjust, but
yeah. This is just kind
of
a direction to start, and then we can always tune as we go along. And then on this page, I have a question for Kevin, because he contributed some code for the workshop in Montreal and for threadsafe functions, Kevin. And the example that you contributed has the code embedded in the markdown. And so I think it would be good to get that into a separate example directory, like a working example. So is that something that you would like to do, or would you like me to do that?
I can do it in the format that we want for this new tutorials folder. I think that, yeah.
Okay.
Would that help?
Yeah, but the first step is to get a working example into the examples repo.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
what that would involve would be extracting out the code that's embedded in the markdown into an example that would be on this page that Michael's showing right now.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that.
Oh, that would be great, Kevin. That would be awesome. Okay.
At some point, I wonder if we should add the numbers to the rest of these, but I don't know if that makes sense. Like they started with 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a totally separate topic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is and in
the
here
numbers,
it's good. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not really sure about the numbers because is it really like a specific order that we want people to learn about? I don't know.
I think that's when, they came from back when these were mostly NaN examples. I think that was the idea. It was kind of the order that you would go through them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the numbered ones, if you look at them, they have NaN and NPI variants.
Yeah.
Where the newer ones just N-API.
Yeah. Well, I guess that one has Node 10, but which is like we're only doing the N-API ones for the new ones. Okay, anyway, that's just a meeting while we were looking at it, not to derail.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. This has been really helpful. I've got some direction here now, so I'll continue.
Excellent. Any other things, Kevin, since you've joined, was there some things or issues you want us to talk about this week?
So I've been working on the threadsafe function context callback. I emailed in the thread chain a comment, and if we can go to that comment.
Sorry, to one of the issues or?
It's in Node add-on API. There's a PR now.
Okay. Okay, PR and
that first one.
This one, okay.
Yes. So this comment here. So basically, this comment here. So the issue that we have is that the current callback implementation that we have ignores the context parameter that exists in the threadsafe function. So what we're trying to do is figure out a way how we can add that. So one way that I've been able to do that is if you click that link in this comment, this callback wrapper to be a class with your constructor. So the previous callback definition used to be what's on that first line for 2220.
Right.
So that used to be the previous definition, and now I've added that second definition, and basically this callback wrapper is now accepts either as a constructor, and then depending on which one has been set, calls either one.
Right.
So this is sort of like a wrapper for that. But now so that's the implementation that I went for that. Do you guys think that's an acceptable solution? Because now it's sort of like we're doing a wrapper of a function, which is already sort of a wrapper, to sort of have this backwards compatibility.
Right, so
this is the reason why I had this.
Using callback wrapper. Okay, so this is all private anyway. Let's just, what does it do to the external signature?
So
it was always
this is the function that's passed to the N-API create threadsafe function.
Right.
And so this context parameter was completely ignored. So it was never passed to any Node add-on API wrapping capability.
Right.
And
the
so this is
callback
how I've
wrapper, is that something that people would have to implement them, like they would provide that? Or, so wait a sec. So the JS callback is what they're providing, right? No.
correct. So the callback wrapper is a it's like it's a function that takes the N-API environment and the JS function.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they're providing. And so what we want to be able to do is add the ability to have that third parameter of the context, which is sort of what that's already what the N-API call JS function provides internally, like the underlying N-API threadsafe function call
Right.
provides it. But the reason I think it was completely ignored here was there was no way to properly typecast it to the context, because the context is only passed in the new function call, and it's sort of internal. And I guess the original author of the code thought it was better to maybe not pass the void context because there was no way to properly typecast it or something. Because I've tried making this also be a templated, but I've had failed for several hours working on that. So I just was able to make this sort of static by adding a static as a void pointer. But now it's sort of a wrapper of a standard function, which is already sort of this wrapper. And then if we go with this, then I'm having some issues, which is what is in the comment which was where we were previously. So I'm not sure if this is even the best approach.
So where's the comment? What's the issue?
The issue here is that we provide this, the blocking and non-blocking calls with the dynamic templated data type here. So what we would want to do if we wanted to go with this wrapper of either function call, then I'd have to sort of now create a templated callback wrapper, because the previous way was just sort of copying the templated parameter, but now I need to be able to override the call overload so that I can say how it's being called. So I need to sort of know statically what it is. So I think I have to go with this approach, with this templated callback wrapper, if that's correct. And that's where I'm kind of stuck, if that makes sense.
I'm just reading some of the code there. So we're calling blocking call from some of the other code, is that?
Yeah. That's,
and we need to pass through the context.
Yeah, you're calling blocking call is being called from the thread, right?
And it can be called either
Correct.
externally or externally, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, so we've added this ability. This is like an add-on to the classical threadsafe function where you can specify the callback per data item, you know. So yeah, that's what complicates matters, because the core implementation just accepts one callback and it always calls the same function, right? So we've added the level of dynamism here with this ability to specify a callback at every point. And in fact, if we do it this way, some data items may have callbacks which have a context. Others may have callbacks which do not have a context. So that makes it sort of potentially unnecessarily heterogeneous.
Right. So now I'm thinking, is this even the correct approach? Should we create a different class that has completely different signatures or something? I'm really not sure.
Like a different TFSN class? Is that the...
Right. Because, correct. And maybe that has more, because one of the issues is the context really is part of the TSFN, but we lose that type safety when you don't have it templated with the threadsafe function.
Exactly.
So maybe we would gain, so we would gain type safety if we were to have a new templated threadsafe function that has a context. But I guess since the context is optional, maybe this threadsafe function with no context would be this one. But then if you have a context, you could have the threadsafe function context, the templated context that may behave differently or something. I don't know.
Can we declare a specialization of the threadsafe function with like a void context, and then if people, I don't remember my C++ well enough to know whether that will allow them to optionally template it or not. So like if they don't template it, they get the void template, and if they do, they get then they make their own specialization. Is that possible? So but yeah, I guess you can do something like template, type name context type equals void, right? So you can specify like a default data type for the context in the template argument, right? And then if they don't say anything, then they get the void context, and then we can specialize for that. We can provide a specialization for that. And so they can have it both ways, right? They can have the templated version of the threadsafe function, and they can have the non-templated, and then the templated one has a proper context, whereas the non-templated one does not. Am I remembering all this C++ stuff correctly?
I think that's possible, but my C++ is also not that strong either. But I think that's possible.
Okay.
Either that you would have the existing threadsafe function class as is, and then you can create a templated threadsafe function class, and the template parameter has to be provided. And I think that may be backwards compatible. I think either way, I don't know. I'd have to check also.
Yeah. We definitely have to check. Yeah, but I think I think you're right in that, if it's not templated, then the context should not be, it should not be possible to use the context, because then you basically have to pass it through as a void star and leave it up to the consumer to cast it properly. And then at that point, we're not really adding value, right, over the core API.
Exactly. So I'll look at that and see if this solves my crisis here.
Okay.
Okay, well, it's definitely a doozy. I gotta hand it.
Yeah, then that's really all that I had to discuss.
Okay, any others we should talk about this week?
I haven't really had a chance to look at it, the Node.js N-API ones. Yeah, mostly just waiting for the instance data to land, so we can do the instance data stuff. Because I think I did submit the instance data PR here. it's kind of on hold because it cannot land until we have instance data backported everywhere. And even then, I think it would have to be experimental. That's it.
Okay.
Oh, and I should check on in core. I should check on that sec fault. I forget where I left that whole thing where I changed the way the instance data is being handled as being just another reference, because I think that needs to be backported.
Should I look up anything here or?
Let me see. Can you see? No, I have to see. I think it's one of my closed PRs. I think I marked it as like LTS watch, but I'm not sure. Let's see. GitHub Node.js Node pulls Gabriel, and then I look at my closed pulls.
This one we might quickly touch
Oh yeah, this
on.
free instance data as reference. Okay, so this needs to be backported because this was so basically if you look at 31.638 in core, basically what's going on is if you have I discovered this while doing the instance data for Node add-on API, like the instance data sort of.
Sorry, is it an issue or a PR?
This is a PR 31.638 in core.
31. Okay, so it's not tagged with any API?
Yes, it is, but it's already closed. That's
Okay,
why you might not be seeing it.
Let me see. What's the number? 31.
368. Yeah, it's 638. Sorry, 638. My mistake.
638.
Yeah. Yeah. So this guy
closed, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So this is basically needed because if you have instance data and inside the instance data you store a reference, right? Which is a very common use case, storing like a reference to constructor inside the instance data, and then if you free the instance data as it was being freed before, then basically first you are freeing all the outstanding references and then you free the instance data, right? But if the instance data has a reference, then that already got freed when the linked list got destroyed. So basically what needs to happen is that the instance data needs to be part of that linked list, so that if it frees something, then it removes it from the linked list and it doesn't get called again. So that was basically this thing, and this is needed for doing instance data. I know that on API, but before we do that, all of this needs to get backported. So that's what I was just looking at to see.
Does this need to go back to V10 as well?
It should, yeah.
Okay.
Oh no! Wait, no, not V10, only V12, because in V10 we don't do the freeing of the references. So that never got backported to V10. Which basically means that in V10, yes, you can do you could do worker threads, and yes, you can do add-ons on worker threads, but they won't really get freed. So there will be leaks and stuff.
Okay.
But, yeah.
But that was, yeah. I mean, that sounds like that would have been true for regular add-ons as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's not a regression in any way. It's just just this improvement will likely not make it 10.
Sure, which is fair.
Yeah, but as long as we have it in master and 12, then we can cautiously proceed with the instance data implementation on Node add-on API. And to that end, I think this was also Lucas's suggestion. Like it was actually his suggestion that got me started on this whole thing, because he suggested, like, okay, well, if you're going to have instance data, then you might as well during the free process, you might as well pass the NVIN, so that if there are any like N-API related objects stored on the instance data, that they can be freed at that point, right? So that was his suggestion. And then I realized that if I add a constructor, then if I free that, it crashes. So that let me do this. But it also led me to think about how to do the instance data. And initially I thought, let's make it like an object wrap, where the add-on is an instance of a class, right? But then I realized that's not a good idea, because then you'd have to duplicate all the property descriptors and all that. So instead of doing that, I figured, okay, why don't we add a method onto N-API Env, which is, just retrieve the instance, and it's not as type safe, because you cannot template the env. Ideally, we would template the env, to have the instance data type, but in this case, you can only template the method. So then although now that I mentioned that idea to Kevin, where you have like a default template of void, maybe I should try that, and provide like a templated env class, which, if not given, will default to like the void data type. And so that would be backwards compatible source level wise with what we have now. And but anyway, so far we just have a templated method for instance data, and that's how I did it, and it's much easier than duplicating all the property descriptors and the definition of function and all that. So but it does need this to work properly, and so that's why this needs to be
and we can basically have it be so that if you specify version 12 or above, then you get it. Otherwise, for 10, you don't.
Yeah, well, no, you get it for all of them. It's just in 10, it will never be called. The destructor will never be called. It'll just leak. So that's the problem, right? Because in 10, we still have instance data. It's just, I mean, we have the backport in progress for instance data for 10, but it's just, actually in 10 it will get freed because it'll be a special case, right? But all the references won't get freed, which is fine, because then it won't crash at least, right? Because when you delete the N-API Env, it'll call the instance data finalizer, but it won't call the finalizers on all the outstanding references like it does in 12 and master. So this will actually work well even in 10, when we backport the instance data.
Okay.
But in 12 and above, it does need this fix. So this needs to be backported to 12 before we can clean up without crashing in 12 and above.
Okay.
So that's basically it as far as my radar is concerned that I can remember right now. And I need to check whether this has landed in 12.
Okay, yeah, nothing else looks like it's recent and new, so I think we're probably good. Okay, well, I guess if that's it, we'll get together and talk next week.
Okie doke.
Great, guys.
Okay, now,
See you next
Gabriel,
week.
can I just ping you, maybe just have a one-on-one for a few minutes on a different topic?
Sure, works for me. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to drop off, but then I'll ping you and we can get together. Talk to you later.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.